Hey, how's it going? David from Comic Book Investments. Today is the market analysis where I break a book down on what it's worth, what it's about, and where it's been and where it's gonna go maybe in the future prices. So today I have Star Wars 42. Now I've showcased this book many times on my comic calls, but this one is a little different. This one is a double cover. So you got this one cover here, and then you got two covers. So you see, one, two, and then you got the book inside. So how does a double cover happen? Usually the way it works is they print off the inside of the comic, like the pages that you read, and the cover's separate because they're printed on different paper and they're printed with like better inks and stuff like that. So they'll print off the comic and then they'll have the covers, right? And then the comic will slide in, the machine will like put them together and staple them together. But sometimes the machine that lays down the covers will lay down two by mistake, sometimes three, sometimes four. I've even seen them go as high as five, right? This machine grabs it and puts it down, and sometimes the ink is so wet that it will stick to the cover that's underneath it. And so the machine just grabs it, and the ink accidentally was not dry enough, and so stuck to the one below it. And then the actual comic itself goes inside, closes around it, they staple together, and now you got yourself a double cover. They're pretty rare. They're not common at all. You can find them. If you look on the census, which we will later, there are, I believe, double covers that have sold to this. So it's not like per issue there's like a couple. There might be maybe per issue depending on how the printing was ran, because and if the ink dried fast enough, you could maybe have as high as like 10 maybe of a particular issue, maybe 5. So anywhere between like of an entire print run of something like that, you're gonna see around 5 to 10, and that's if they survived. Maybe a kid got it and, oh, well, I have two covers. I'll tear one off and put it on my wall and leave the other cover. Who knows? So they're not that common. There might, you might get a particular book and you might have the only one that's double cover. Triple covers are extremely rare, right? There's not that many. Like you might go through a whole series of a comic book, like a whole Star Wars series, and never get a single triple cover of any issue. And then there's even quadruple covers. There's most famous one was a Spider-Man 361 First Carnage was, I believe, a quadruple cover. There's 4, and it was a 9.9. And yeah, that thing's, yeah. It would be easier to find a higher amount cover, like a double, triple, quadruple cover in the later issues of like in the 90s, because they had print runs in the millions almost. Maybe this Star Wars, like when they first did their print runs, they're probably in the hundreds of thousands, depending on the book. So it's a lot more common. So now that you know how a double cover's happened, what are they worth? Well, and how are they graded? So the way they're graded is they put on, so say it's something's like a 9.4, something like that, you'll see it on the top, corner, it'll say like 9.4 or whatever. That goes off of the best possible grade of all the covers. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4 covers, right? Triple, quadruple, whatever, it goes, what's the best grade of all of them? And so it tends to be easier to get a higher grade of a double cover because the first cover, right? The kid reads it, maybe puts creases, puts like staining on it, dirt and all that kind of stuff, but it technically is covering the next inside cover from damage and tears and wrinkles and all that kind of stuff that damages the book. So usually what you'll have is you'll have like the first cover will be like maybe like an 8 or 9 or something like that, but then the inside cover is much higher than that. It's like a 9.4, 9.6. In this particular case, the outer cover has some like creases and stuff. The outer cover will probably come back, I don't know, like maybe an 8, but the inner cover I think or maybe even an 8.5, but the inner cover will come back a 9.4. And so that's the grade that CGC gives it. It gives it the best grade. So even I've seen in one where the front cover had like a big tear piece like missing on it, but the inside cover was untouched. So you had the outer cover that was like I don't know, like a 4 or something like that. And then the inside cover was like a 9. And what does CGC gives it? It gives it a 9. But then it'll say on the label, say inside cover is a 9, outer cover is a whatever it is, 4, 5, 6. But it's based, the price that you get is usually based off the top grade. So I'll go into more detail on basically what the price is worth, but it usually goes off of the best grade possible. Not the cover that you see. The cover that you see, which when it's cased, is probably the outer cover, which could be a 5 or 6, but then the inside cover is an 8. The price is based off the 8, and it's actually worth more than just a normal 8.0. It's usually worth. It could be worth as low as like 10 to 25% more, or it could be close to double. So we'll look in the numbers here in a second. So here we're going to look at double covers and what's the price difference. So this chart will look a little different than the previous charts I've had. So if you look over here, here's the Star Wars 4296. Now, mine that I got is not a 96, but I'm just looking at what the prices show me. But as you can see, a non-double cover would sell for like 180. A double cover would be about 383. Now, if you're wondering like, oh, those prices seem pretty low, well, that's because if you come over here, all right, the only double cover that's sold that they have on a sold sheet is back in November 2019. So that's the only number I could go off of. So then I look at, okay, well, what did a normal 9.6 sell for, back then? And then it's like, okay, 2019, kind of look at all of them right here. So that's kind of how I got those numbers, just so you can see kind of like what it's worth. Also, I'll go through a couple other numbers. So this is a Star Wars 42 double cover. I found a bunch more, so we can like kind of look at a bunch more. Here's a Spider-Man 361 First Carnage, obviously. Now, they had a double cover sell, a 9.8 in January of 2020. No, they had one that sold in 2017, blah, blah. Okay, so we're looking about $1,000 in January of 2020. So we go here to January 2020. There's a lot. Dang, there's a lot sold. 522 have sold. So you're looking in here, you're looking around $350 for a non-double cover. Now that's definitely a more popular book. If we go here, Avengers 83, we just had a double cover sell in March. I tried to get newer ones. 9.2 sold for $800. But the most recent one, October, a non-double cover sold for about $450 right here. Then let's look at another one. Here's an old Golden Age one, which is interesting. They had two. They have a 9.8 double cover and also a 4.5, and they both sold recently. So that's interesting. So sometimes I'd look at some of these trying to find double covers. No double covers. That doesn't mean they don't exist. That just means no one's ever graded them and sold them. They could have sold them raw, or they could have sold them, through a private party and it doesn't show up on this thing, or they just kept them. But yeah, you got a 5.0 that sells for about $900 around the same time, and then you got the double cover, which is a lesser grade of 4.5, sells for $1,020. So not much difference there, but also there is a grade difference here between a 5 and a 4.5. What do we got here? X-Men 48. Let's see. That's old. Right here. 8.5. This is actually one of my books I sold. Sold for $230 when a non-double cover was a few months prior, sells for $100. Star Wars 40. You got a 9.8 that's just sold for $940, and in February 2021, but in February 2021, a non-double cover sold for $545. So it's almost like a double. And I'll get into the more figures a little bit. Here's Joker 2. This was actually sold by me. And if you look, you can see double cover. First cover is a 9.4, interior cover 9.6. So that's how they kind of list it. So the 9.4 is this cover, right? The front cover that you see, but it gives it a 9.6 grade because the 9.6 is actually the best looking cover, and they always do it, whatever's the best looking cover. So yeah, as you can see up there. So what did the Joker 2? Let's see what we get. Okay, so we sold it for about $300, but the most recent sell for a non double cover is 132. Let's see what the most highest one ever sold. If you went back in 2016, a 9.6 sold for almost the same as a double cover, but most of the time they don't average that high. Look, they're pretty low comparatively. All right, this one's a kind of interesting one. This one is a Batman 16 triple cover. So it's sideways, but it says the first cover is a 2.5, second cover 4.0, and then the interior cover, so the third one is a 4.0 as well. And so what do they give it? They give it a 4.0. And it doesn't even matter. Even if the first two covers were 1.0s and the last cover was an 8.0, they give it an 8.0. So that's kind of how that grades. So this one sold for $400. All right, so might it say 400? Oh, I think that might have been. Let me see. Is that a best offer? I think it was listed for 400, but then sold for 200. I'm not quite sure. But anyways, it's right here, triple cover. But like, what does a 4.0 sell for? You know, Batman 216. I don't know if a 7.0 sells for about $50, or like a 9.4 sells for 200. So you're looking at a 4.0 normally would probably sell for whatever it costs the case, like $20-$30. So let's jump over the numbers since I showed you everything. So yeah, mine will probably grade around 9.4. So this was just 9.6 price. If you look at it, it nearly doubles in the difference. It's up 113%. The Spider-Man, Carnage, it's up 184%. The Avengers 83, it's up 78%. The Flash comics is only up 13% compared to the non-double cover, but also again, this price was for a 5.0. It's hard when you're in the golden age to find stuff that's very comparable. This book that I sold, a normal one sells, normal covers 8.5 sells about $100. Sold for $230. That's a 129% jump. Then you got, of course, that Star Wars 40, 72, and the Joker. So if you average all these out for double covers, it's averages, I don't know if you can see down here, averages 102%. I don't know if you can see this, but averages 102%. So yeah, so it's almost like double the price, which kind of makes sense. You got two covers, so technically you got two books, not two interiors. So that's kind of how I always go into it, is a double cover is worth kind of double what a non-double cover is worth, close to it, depending on the value, the rarity of it. And then just for fun, you got the Batman 216 triple cover. That should be, I don't know what that's $200. Sorry, I put it over here. Triple cover. It's 560%. Yeah, once you get in the triple covers, quadruple covers, all that kind of stuff, they're super rare. So you will have the only one. There's never going to be another triple cover Batman 216 in any grade. So then it comes down to who's going to pay for it, who really wants it that bad. I think, that if I can look here correctly, let's see, Spider-Man. So you had 6 covers. 6 covers, sextuple, I don't know how to say it. So for $8,600 on Comic Link. I wonder if they have a picture. Here we go. This is octuple. I don't know how to say it. But yeah, Look how many covers there is. First one's 9.6, second one's 9.9, third one's 9.9. Covers 4 through 7th are 9.8. Interior cover is 9.8. 8 covers, and they got this thing signed. That's just crazy. But yeah, so that's kind of what double covers are, and triple and all that kind of stuff. They're pretty rare. In the newer comics, so like this Spider-Man 361, since it's a newer comic, they had high print runs during like the 90s and stuff like that. So the higher the print run, the higher chance of these errors happening. And also the older ones, like there's not going to be very common in the Golden Age stuff because they might have had high print runs, but most of them got thrown away, destroyed, or whatever. Maybe kids just took off the covers because they thought it was cool. So yeah, it's going to be, the older ones are going to be a lot harder to find, but newer comics, especially in like the 90s when they had huge print runs, it's going to be a lot easier to find. That's not to say that there's one going to exist for every issue. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe. Thanks.